Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Day Early Comics Review Show. I'm Jason.
I'm Andy.
And we're with infinityfluxcomics in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where every Monday after our comics have been delivered and we're done bagging and boarding them, Andy and I pull aside the top 10 to 12 that we both want to read or ones we think most people want to hear about. We read them and we do what we call our spoiler light review show. So we're going to tell you collectible reasons you might want these books. We'll tell you if there's first appearances, things like that. But even more so, we will tell you what issue number ones are about, what the art style's like, so that when you go in your store, whatever day of the week you go in, you are prepared with the knowledge of what comics you are most excited for. It's a pretty big week this week. So I know I read, I think, 12 books. I think you did 11 or 12.
Yep.
So by the end of the show, I think we'll have gone over 23 to 24 books, plus all their variants and the incentives. We're also going to quickly go over all the other books that are out this week. So before we get started, I want to say that we had audio problems last week with the mic popping, got everything set up and organized this week. I moved my mic over 4 inches and it pulled our digital audio recorder off of the stand and it broke. So if you're wondering why our audio doesn't sound as good, it's because we're having to do it through our camera mic audio, which isn't nearly as good. So yeah, another audio problem. I apologize. We're just going to buy another digital converter and get back with our awesome condenser mics hopefully next week. So Apologies on that. All right, let's get back to the comics. So, something that makes me feel happy and not me breaking our equipment. Andy, what are we going to start with?
Starting with Star Wars Return of the Jedi, Jabba's Palace. So this is interesting. This is a series of one-shots that are coming out in celebration of Return of the Jedi's 40th anniversary. And so we're beginning with the Jabba's Palace. There's going to be an Ewok one. There's going to be one focused on the Empire. But these are going to kind of tell lost stories or, from a certain point of view type stories from key moments in Star Wars. So starting off with Jabba's Palace, I was surprised to find the first few panels of this are direct adaptations from Return of the Jedi. It's when C-3PO and R2 are going into Jabba's palace, and they're basically getting assigned their jobs, where the droid basically says, are you an interpreter? And he says, that's good because the last one we had to disintegrate. Well, this is the story of the droid that had the job before C-3PO that is currently getting disintegrated. So it was really fun. It pans over to him, shows him, and it says a few weeks or a few months before, and that is our story. So like I said, it's kind of let's take this background character that you know from the scene, and let's tell his story. So this is by Mark Guggenheim and Alessandro Miracolo, and it is it's a very good one and done story. I believe it's a little oversized, not huge, but you get a full story in here. So I think that's great.
Probably a 30-pager. A lot of times Marvel will go up to 30 pages.
Yeah, so I think that's great too. If you don't want to get all of these one shots, you can pick the ones that sound most interesting to you. One of the big things that happens in this character, whose name is ATM, which I get the 8 part. I couldn't figure out it's EIGHTYEM, and usually it's 2 numbers or a letter and a number. I couldn't quite tell, but he gets brought in and he's really good at his job. He's a really good interpreter. He even kind of Jabba's what's this guy saying? And he's well, he's saying this, but the quiver in his voice, and I know from his language, says that he's lying. And so he's really good at his interpreting job, and Jabba's really liking him. Well, one day, a new character shows up named Sylvan Khan. And he's one of your ones that comes in and stuff just starts going wrong when he's there. And he's whispering in people's ear, and then fights are getting started. And it seems like he might have an eye for Jabba's throne. And this guy gets his hands on this droid saying, I think you're bigger than this job. Let me help you get out of this place. And we know it leads to this character's disintegration. So read and find out how that happens. It's very fun. The art is great. Jabba's always a hard character to draw, and there's some really fun scenes with him in here. So highly recommend this one if you're looking for kind of. We've got High Republic going on now. We have a lot of the, Darth Vader, Star Wars, all of that. You're getting some good kind of Star Wars crime drama and intrigue in this. So that is Star Wars Jabba's Palace number 1.
I've always liked as far as the way Jabba looks, he's very asymmetrical.
Uh-huh.
That's what makes him so unsettling and probably, harder to draw in a way.
We've also got some variants for this one. This is the Garbett connecting variant. Very cool, very classic. And we have a beautiful Peach Momoko variant with Leia from Return of the Jedi.
Definitely the only Peach Momoko variant this week, for sure.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
I certainly am joking. So I read Unstoppable Doom Patrol number 1. So if you are a collector of first appearances, this is probably one you want to pick up because it has the first appearance of a new Doom Patrol member. It is Beast Girl. You kind of see her down there in the corner. She has the powers to tap into people, like one person, groups of people, sort of primal emotions, like fear, things like that. That is her ability. We get to see a little of it in this issue. But it also has a first appearance of a new character who they didn't officially say it, but I'm going to call it already. I mean, it's pretty much there. The character's name is Degenerate. So you'll have to see who that character is. They are one of the ones on the cover. And you get at least 2 new personalities of Crazy Jane. So Crazy Jane, of course, is the schizophrenic member of Doom Patrol, multiple personality, I guess would be the better way to describe her, where her personalities have different powers and she can pull them to the surface. So the first thing I always have to mention with Doom Patrol is they were around before the X-Men. So many people don't know that. They actually debuted in the DC universe several months before the X-Men, and a lot of people have thought, wow, the X-Men really, some of it seems like it's drawn right from there, right to where Doom Patrol originally had a wheelchair-bound guy who pulled them together and led the team. So I love that little nugget. You should look that up if you want to learn more. So this is by Dennis Culver and Chris Burnham. And the team this time, it is Robot Man, Negative Man, Elasti-Woman, and the Chief, who is one of the new personalities of Crazy Jane, along with Beast Girl. That's at least the 5 they start out with. We'll see what happens by the end. I think the comic art, it is what I call standard comic art. It's not like necessarily anime inspired or anything like that, but it is really good. It is a very good example of standard comic art that works really well with the weirdness and the powers you expect from a Doom Patrol book. The Doom Patrol members, they just have stranger powers than you'll find in most superhero teams, and they lean into that. So in this issue, they're in Gotham where they're dealing with some of the fallout from what happened with the Lazarus stuff, where people have gained powers and they've heard that there's this weird kind of super powerful monster there called Subject 99. Well, can the Doom Patrol use their powers to stop this creature or monster or person? You'll have to read to see, but I'll tell you, they have a tough time at it. This thing is very, very difficult for them to deal with. This also guest stars one of Gotham's greatest heroes. And on top of that, there is also an appearance by a character who is usually seen in the more like Suicide Squad sort of stuff, who also will be getting their own series coming up. That's the hints I'll be giving. And I thought this was a really good action-packed first issue with a B story that sets up the villains that are to come. So sort of the bigger villains, they don't meet them this issue. You get to see what they're up to going in. The writer, Dennis Culver, he's gone far and above trying to promote this book. And I really appreciate that. He really cares about it. He's promised this is going to be a really good book. So if you're somebody who usually likes X-Men stuff and you want to dip your toe into the DC universe, I think this is a good one to do. Doom Patrol is just a little weirder than X-Men. I think they started both weird, but X-Men is just a little bit more like mainstream with what Claremont did to them. Doom Patrol has kept their sort of stranger roots, but it's not like completely crazy. I mean, if you want completely crazy, read the Grant Morrison Doom Patrol of the past.
But Doom Patrol characters are interesting because they're not like the Justice League where they're essentially all super strong, super flying, whatever. They're like very specialized abilities to see how they have to work together using those powers because they're not all indestructible. So you've got Robo Man who's a little bit tougher and everything. So I feel like it's like the X-Men, how they're very like they've got one thing that they do really well.
That's a very good point. So here are some of the awesome variants. Here is the Zerdy variant with Elasti Woman, and she does grow very big in this issue. Here is the Burnham variant. But the one I really want to talk about is the Lotto Scratch-Off variant. They just call it the Scratch-Off variant. I added the Lotto part. So this is Crazy Jane, and she's looking in the mirror, and that is a Scratch-Off. I have not done it yet. I am going to not do it right here on camera, but I am certainly going to do it as soon as we're done. So you scratch this off to see who she sees in the mirror, and I believe it's 6 to 8.
Yeah.
There's 6 or 8 different characters she can see. I just want to hold this really close. Can you tell? I mean, that is like a lotto ticket. You scratch it off. I think that's really awesome.
Very unique idea.
It's got the texture to it I'm feeling right now. So here's the deal. We Stores had to order that a few weeks before the other books, just on its own. So I bet it is under order. So if you want that book, you're going to have to get it in the first day or two that it's out, I bet. I should mention before we continue, I forgot earlier, about our website. So infinityflux.net, you can go there. You can buy these comics. They are up for sale right now. We can't ship them till their release date on Tuesday and Wednesday, but you can buy them now. You can also sign up to subscribe for comics or whatever covers you want. So again, that is at infinityflux.net.
Perfect. Well, next up for mine, you also have a incentive.
Oh, that's right. The 1 in 25 Culver variant. So he is your interior artist that we are selling for $20.
Cool. So next up for mine is a new book from Mark Miller. So this is The Ambassadors from Mark Miller and Frank Quietly.
Putting out so many new books.
Is. He must just like write, and then at one time just like these to this artist, and just dump them all at once. So we've seen this for a little while and kind of know the concept of it. It's very interesting to give it a read. So The Ambassadors begins in Mexico in 1986. And first off, I'll say this almost reminds me, it's funny you bring up Grant Morrison before. It's a little, but it's probably also because Frank Quietly draws it. You know, you have All-Star Superman. They've worked together a bit on stuff. But it also has a little bit of that, like, a little twist of the weird in it, because in this Mexico town, there is a kind of a monkey thing that runs through and levitates a truck that's about to hit it, and then a government agent shows up and is like, "Are you ready to come back?" So already they put you in this mindset of like, this is our world, but there's some weird stuff going on. It's a little Men in Black almost. So that's how it starts, and then we get into some kind of backstory about maybe what's going on with this facility. It's nice how it, like, we got that little story. Next, we get a little story about people flying across the Arctic, and oh, did you see that thing down there? It almost looked like a city. No, I didn't see anything. Oh, it's gone. It kind of like hits all around the bullseye without hitting the bullseye, because we are introduced to kind of a very classic U.S. agent type guy who is explaining that much like our space race, there was a superhero race. What country can make the first superhero? And America we couldn't figure it out, so we did essentially like a moon landing video, but looks very much like an old Superman movie, where we saw this. They had the technology where it looked like he was flying, he was stopping a plane, he was doing all of this. But they said it never looked good enough, so we never released it. But no one else ever created superheroes. But that is until now. But it's not America that creates the first superhero. So that's kind of where it kicks it off. And we learned a little bit about the scientist who makes the first superhero and what they intend to do with it. Now, we know from the solicitations and everything that this is going to be kind of powers are going to be given to a select number of people from different countries to, I guess, help protect the world or whatever.
The ambassadors.
Yeah, the ambassadors, the superhero ambassadors. But I think they pitched it as that, but I think the more interesting side of it is this like space race, but for superheroes and the different countries vying for that. The kind of cover-ups, the what's actually been going on before this moment that's led up to it. It seems like there's going to be a lot of like mystery and a lot of hidden facilities and all of that. The art is great. Frank Quietly is great. His detail. There's some definitely some surgery scenes that are pretty squeamish to look at, but done in a very fun and comic booky way.
There is going to be a different artist for each issue.
Right. I was going to say, so, and I believe it's going to be kind of focused on a different character. So this character you see on the cover is brought into it, and she's kind of the first superhero. So we get a little bit about her origin. And as we go through, I believe we're going to meet some of the other ones you'll see on some of the variant covers. So I think it's a really cool idea.
I think it's a 6-issue miniseries.
Yeah.
5 or 6 issues.
Yeah, and I like that the art's going to kind of reflect the places and the people and the powers. So if that sounds like something that interests you, especially, I would say less like traditional Western superhero and more, like sci-fi government take on superheroes. So I suggest if you like that kind of thing, you like some indie books, you like Mark Millar, pick it up. I've got some variants for that one as well. So here is your Pepe Larraz variant. You can see some of the other characters are going to be appearing. Interesting about that, there is an ad on the back that has no picture, but it says that this artist, Larraz, and Mark Millar are going to be working on a book that's going to come out, I believe, in June. So always teasing the next thing. He's not done yet.
Yeah, and even though this is a 5 or 6 issue miniseries, I can't think of anything Miller has done where if it's popular, he ends up releasing another miniseries after it.
And we also have one other. This is the Cavenago variant.
Okay, so I read Venom Lethal Protector 2, number 1. And oh, what a cover. You're not reading Venom. He's about to eat you, it looks like. So this is by David Michelini and art by Fareed Karami. So this is set back in the past, okay? Back in the Lethal Protector days where Eddie and the symbiote are getting used to each other, where they're much more a dark anti-hero, almost not even a hero, a lot more vicious. Eddie is living a life of solitude sort of on the street. He would freeze, but the Venom symbiote keeps him from freezing. He's just sleeping wherever he can. Just trying to wrestle with these new powers he has and how he does at heart want to do some good with them. And so they come upon a battle that's going on between Silver Sable and what's her team called? The Wild Pack. Yeah, Silver Sable and the Wild Pack are going up against these evil people called the Vanguard, and they're fighting over this alien artifact that can be weaponized. So Eddie has to kind of decide, or Venom has to decide, will I help? Will I not? And it's pretty interesting. The sort of the mental gymnastics he does as far as who should he help and why. Does he want payment? Is he just going to be a nice guy? But this book has a lot of other things in it as well, because Eddie gets reunited with some kid he saved way back in a Web of Spider-Man issue. I mean, we're talking back from the day. You don't have to have read it though. All you know is he's a kid that Eddie rescued. They get reunited. The kid's a little older now, and he suggests that he could be Venom's sidekick. He wants to be Kid Venom.
Oh,
And of course, Eddie does not like this, but this character shows up a few times. He's really pushing it. Also in this book, what is the Venom signal? I didn't say bat signal, but you'll have to read to see how similar these are. And lastly, who might want to hire Venom and add them to their team? So a whole lot of stuff going on in this book, even though at the center of it, it really is, Eddie and his thoughts on what is he going to do with these powers. But he's getting pulled into a lot of stuff here. So I think it was a good first issue with just, again, sort of standard American style comic art of the day, but that's a bit violent, very, very suitable for the anti-hero that Venom is. So here is the Momoko variant. Back already with another variant. I thought there was only one. And here is the Alex Ross Timeless Villains variant. Everybody's going to want this one. I mean, even apart from the subject being Venom, it really is a good one. And here is the 1 in 25 Sakura wraparound variant. We're selling for $15.
almost reminds me of that Sensational Spider-Man #1 cover, where he's got like
climbing.
he's got the climbing, very like bony hands and everything. Next up, I've got our next installment of Lazarus Planet: Revenge of the Gods. This is #2. And so you see Shazam there on the cover. The first issue really didn't have too much Shazam in it, which, he was kind of touted as being a big part of this. Well, this one is almost exclusively about Shazam, which I think is cool. You didn't cram it both in the first issue. They each kind of have their own to see why are they a part of the story. The story, of course, is where the gods of Olympus and other pantheons were kind of frustrated with superheroes for taking their spotlight, taking their people's praise. So they've decided to basically come to Earth and demand people worship them instead of these superheroes. So to a lot of the heroes that are a little bit more tied with maybe Olympus or the gods, this does seem a little weird for them. They usually work pretty well. Why would they suddenly turn? So in this, we begin with Billy Batson, who witnesses some giants in the city turning into Shazam. He's going to fight them. And that's when he gets a message that he's needed for the situation going on, and he's got to go find someone in Washington, D.C. that can guide him to Olympus. Well, you can maybe guess who that is on the cover, but yes, we get Yara Flor meeting Shazam for the first time, which I think is really cool because he's, actually a kid. She's pretty young too. So you've got this kind of younger team up as they go to investigate what's going on in Olympus. And it is not all as it seems. Maybe there's someone behind the goings on that literally is behind the person that you see. That's kind of a last page tease, but it's a very interesting idea that they're going for. I'm interested to see what happens with the characters they're using, because there's a very Shazam-centric character that makes an appearance in here and acting in a way you've never really seen them. So I thought this was another fun installment. I'm interested to see where this goes, especially because we know that Mark Waid and Dan Moore are going to be doing a Shazam series that I believe launches after this. So it's going to be interesting to see how maybe this sets up Shazam for that. But that is your A cover, the Gilliam March cover. And we have the DeMio variant, of course, all the glowing. And we have a 1 in 25 Michael Cho variant that we are selling to our customers for $20 Yara Flor.
All right, so a new indie miniseries that is coming out that I just read from Mad Cave Comics is Don't Spit in the Wind.
That's just good advice.
So this is written, and the art and the cover is all done by Stefano. So if you like this cover, this is exactly what the interiors look like. This is set in the future of Earth, where humanity has abandoned the planet, and it follows a character named Travis who works for Atomic Brothers, and their job is to sort of clean up the Earth. The Earth, it's now poisonous air, totally inhospitable. So him and his crew, they go in their mech suits and they're picking up things and they're trying to make it where maybe one day in the far, far future it'll be habitable again. Well, what happens when one of Travis's fellow coworkers goes missing? They know the planet, it's dangerous to live there, but there really hasn't been any dangers otherwise. Well, I'll say by the end of this issue, I think he's going to find his job to be quite dangerous, considering what he discovers. I think the main selling point to this really is that indie style art, where it's just sort of everything is very highly detailed and sort of scratchy and dirty. And, if you're into this style, we were talking about, it reminded me of Keith Giffen, who did Trencher. He worked on Lobo.
Yeah.
I see that, and some people, it's like, that is for me.
Yeah.
Anything with that style, that's for them. I think that people like that are going to like it. It has a variant, but we do not have any of the variant left. We had a lot of people order the variant after we placed orders.
Yeah.
So I unfortunately don't have that to show to you. So just that cover.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. I don't know. Like you said, that style, it's a little like punk comics.
Sure.
It's a little grody, that kind of thing.
Very indie, very 90s indie made.
Oh, did anyone notice what time it is? It's Clobberin Time. So, Clobberin Time, a new #1 from Marvel Comics.
Another miniseries.
This is I forgot, the word's not anthology. It's a series of one-shots that are kind of loosely connected. There's a word for that. But, so this is, it tells you everything on the cover about what to expect with this. Even the art. So this is written and drawn by Steve Scrose, or Scrosey?
I think it's Scrosey.
Scrosey. And very much like the art in your book, this is a very kind of gritty, highly detailed, you see every rock on Ben Grimm. But the story is, it's funny, it's narrated by a watcher, but he's not like Uatu, he's another one. He's like kind of a 90s version of a watcher. He's got a gun and he's got a scar over his eye, and he's telling you this tale of this famed hero, Ben Grimm. And we pick up with Ben Grimm and Bruce Banner just eating breakfast. And they find out there's a mission they need to go on. And so they go out, and it seems like there is a giant monster attacking the city, because that is what this book is about. I feel like the story is, how do we leave from one Clobberin Time to another? So you're going to get all of the punching, smacking, debris and shrapnel and everything in this, with Ben Grimm teaming up with Hulk. But a mysterious character shows up. A amalgamation of, I won't say who, but a Avenger and an X-Men. What's this character doing here when they teleport Ben and the Thing and Hulk into another dimension where they must defend some little kind of gnome people against this oncoming threat. But it does all get wrapped up in this issue. But it says the next one, it's going to be Ben Grimm and Wolverine. So each of them is going to be Ben Grimm with another kind of brawler character on a fun mission. So if you're looking for, I know a lot of people are like, oh, there's too much talking in comics. I just want some of that old-fashioned smackdown. That's what this is. There's a story, but it's definitely there to benefit the art and the fighting and the monsters. At the end of the day, the Thing and Hulk look like they've been through the ringer. There's some rocks missing from Ben Grimm. But very fun. If you're looking for kind of a classic Marvel team-up type book, this is a great one for that. I've also got some really good variants for this. Really good variants. This is the Greg Smallwood variant. It's beautiful. It's your artist from the DC series. the Tom King.
Right, the Human Target.
Human Target. Yeah, that's the Human Target artist.
Okay, so I read Harley Quinn issue number 28. I was very much looking forward to checking this out because this is the new creative team of Teenie Howard and Sweeney Boo. And, kudos to DC to not always restart with a new number one. But honestly, I almost thought it might be a good idea because the whole creative team changed. They were at least 25 issues in. They let the comic breathe for a while.
Yeah.
The last team kind of stated, we're done. We've told all the stories we want to tell. And it was a great series. So I was like interested and anxious to read this, but I was also apprehensive because I so liked the previous. But I recommend this. This was really good. So let me tell you about this. First off, Sweeney Boo did the cover, which I think is a great cover. Look at that. Harley with plenty of attitude. That's how you want to see her. And what the plot is about is Harley is in a prank war with Two-Face. And it's not like minor Home Alone pranks. Like it escalates real quickly to where the city is in danger. She calls it pranking him. What you see that she's doing, it's like, this is terrible. Like, this is so dangerous. Well, Harley's friend Kevin, he kind of steps in. He's like, look, you're taking this too far. Harley doesn't want to hear it, okay? So through a turn of events that you will have to read, Harley ends up getting community service and having to teach at a community college. Well, there's a few new characters that are introduced. These are students. I don't know if they're going to go anywhere. They have some pretty pointed questions for Ms. Quinzel. And but the problem is the prank war continues. Even in her class, it gets dire. It's terrible. Well, there's so much that happens in this. Without revealing it all, what I will say is a character, a hero who is back from Crisis in Infinite Earths, enters this comic and tells Harley, hey, something's happening where you are messing up the multiverse with your pranks. And
some serious prank.
Right, and Harley doesn't even know this. She doesn't know how she can stop it. And this is a powerful character that, a lot of you might not even know when you see this character. And so basically that's sort of like where this goes is how is this happening? Why is this happening? But then there's a backup story. And in the backup story, which is also done by the creative team, Sweeney Boo changes her art style completely. And her style changes to an anime manga style where it's this funny tale of Harley with her team of, what does she call them? She calls them the Lovely Angels. And they're going up against the evil, rich, capitalist Bruce Wayne. He's like the anime manga villain of this like manga world that they're doing. Anyway, so that story is funny. That story is like, oh, this is hilarious. It's kind of Sailor Moon, a little bit Voltron. But the A story is really good. So anyway, very much liked Harley Quinn. I think Sweeney Boo's art is excellent for it. Like the A story art is really good. And as much as I thought it would just be joking, even though it is a prank war, there's some serious things going on in it too. A lot of good variants for it, as you have with Harley Comics. Here is the Quan variant. Very much to look at there.
Yeah.
All the accessories. Then we have this awesome Sook variant. You get sort of like a Peter Pan feel from that. And of course, the Jenny Frison variant. And I will say the fish is an important part of the story that I didn't reveal yet. And a 1 in 25 Dan Mora variant we're selling to our customers for $20. Some classic Harley.
Next up, I just want to briefly go over. This is Action Comics 1053. I'm sure that's right. Yep, 1053 continues the Metallo story that's been going on. This time, Superman pretty much knows Lex Luthor has something to do with this. So Superman is going to go to Lex to find out, hey, what did you do to Metallo? Because something's different about him this time. He seems a little unhinged. And said that Metallo even mentions that he's hearing voices. What do you have to do with that? So pretty interesting take on Metallo this time. It's a twist, and when you find out maybe what's going on with him, it makes everything a lot more severe. The other thing I really liked in this issue was John Kent dealing with the new adopted kids that are from Warworld, and how he sees them, and how he likes them. He wants to be welcoming, but also he sees that they're having a childhood that he didn't have with his dad, and how that affects him. It's a very emotional story coming from John. We also get what I feel like is kind of a lead into the new Steel miniseries, the Steelworks book, because we get John Henry in here, and kind of a little bit more about that company and what's going to be happening. We continue our story that's set in the Superman and Lois storyline from when John was a kid, and we continue the Power Girl story that, even though it's been kind of one-shots leading up, with Power Girl going inside different characters' minds and figuring out what's going on with them, why their powers aren't working, we maybe find out what's causing a lot of this, where there is a character that does appear to be messing with things. So that is Action Comics 1053, another great issue. Superman stuff right now is so good. We've got some variants for this. So this is the Carlini variant. Looks like they all got Ma Kent her own super jacket.
Yeah.
Very fun. And we have this Sandoval variant with a very classic Superman.
Okay, so I read Avengers Beyond #1. This is the new miniseries from. It is by Derek Landy and Greg Land, our team who just had done All Out Avengers. So this happens right after All Out Avengers is over, but they do a catch up at the beginning. So if you missed the miniseries All Out Avengers, it kind of catches you up right off the bat with that little paragraph they do. So what's going on is the Avengers figured out last series that somebody has been messing with time. They've been missing time. Somebody's been bending reality. And Captain America and the rest, I said Captain America, they figured out it was the Beyonder. And so this first issue, they kind of go to the Beyonder and they're like, what are you doing? You know, he's a godlike entity that has done things like this before. Well, this issue has the first cameo appearance of a character called the Lost One. This is someone who is more powerful than the Beyonders. In fact, the Lost One created the Beyonders, but for certain reasons, they had to imprison the Lost One. Well, guess what? As with all things that are imprisoned in comics, it escapes.
Yeah.
Everywhere is Arkham.
Everywhere has a revolving door.
Yes. So the Lost One is out, and it is up to the Beyonder to convince the Avengers, who think that he's just been messing with them, if possibly they'll help him. But this Lost One is not by itself. It does have some very powerful allies that may attack them even in this very issue. So that's what's going on. Avengers Beyond issue #1. It's a 5-issue miniseries. Here we have the Scotty Young variant for it.
So you think with that recap, someone who hadn't read the last series could jump into this one?
Absolutely. I mean, it definitely adds if you know everything that happened.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're not going to be too lost if you read the recap.
And it's been a while since we've seen Beyonder. He does not show up too often.
No, he doesn't. He has to update his outfit. It takes him like 20 years to get from the 60s to the 80s and 80s to the.
But still giant shoulder pads. Next up, I've got a new Black Label book from DC. This is Waller versus Wildstorm. So this is, it's cool that there's still, we've got multiple Wildstorm universe books with Wildcats and now Waller versus Wildstorm. And the name tells you a lot of what this is going to be. So this is set in the 80s, which is like late 80s, I think like 88, leading into the 90s. So this is kind of prime time for Wildstorm in general and those kind of characters, but they're all a little bit younger. This is written by Spencer Ackerman, and this will tell you a lot about the book because he is a national security reporter. So a lot of this is about intel and, secret meetings between characters and exchanging information. And Also by Evan Narcisse, who is a pretty big video game writer who wrote the Spider-Man Miles Morales game for the PlayStation. And look up his stuff. Done a lot. Arkham, the last Arkham game he wrote. So very cool there. And the art is by Jesus Marino. So in it, we find Lois Lane, who is out doing her reporting in another country. She's in Gamora. And that is when she is contacted by someone, kind of in code, saying, "We need to meet. I'll be at this cafe." And that is when she meets up with the character, an old Wildstorm character named Battalion, who you see right there in the middle on the top of the cover. And he is coming to Lois because he basically says, "Have you heard of a woman named Amanda Waller?" And Lois is like, "No." He's like, "Well, she's responsible for the death of my friend. I need you to find her." And this is not the Amanda Waller of, leader of Task Force X and all that. This is back when she was kind of an underling in another group and rising up the ranks, and kind of how she's got her own agenda for kind of controlling the superhero universe. And she comes at it with her own team of characters based around DC characters. So you basically got a Wildstorm group and a DC group that contains characters like Deathstroke. So you've got the Wildstorm ones with Grifter, and hers with Deathstroke and some other characters. So it seems like it's going to be a lot of not necessarily espionage, but a lot of like intrigue, national security issues, kind of trying to prevent things before they happen. It's pretty dialogue heavy, but it's all very interesting. You can tell the writer definitely knows how these situations really go down, and you get a good sense of kind of the characters, what's at stake, like what information needs to be exchanged, and it's very tense for most of the book. So if that sounds like something you like, check out Waller versus Wildstorm. There's a lot of action in it, but there's also a lot of kind of heavy drama. That is our A cover, and then this is our variant. This is called the Battle variant. I think the artist name is Battle. So very fitting.
Okay, so I read another indie book that I think a lot of people want to know about. It is Indigo Children #1. This is written by Kurt Pyers with art by Alex Diotto. The first thing I will say is hats off to them, because this is a double-sized first issue and they kept the price normal for $3.99. That is such a good way to tell people, hey, we believe in our comic.
Yeah.
So much that we're probably not making any money on the first issue. And you're going to get to see twice as much of the world. It's not just tiptoeing into it. Comics have lost pages over the decades to ads.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's harder and harder for new issue #1s to really have enough meat in them to get you going. So it's really cool that they did this. So this is set in a realistic world where maybe some people have superpowers, okay? And these people were called the Indigo Children. They were back in the 80s. This follows a journalist who is trying to uncover where did they go. I think the art style, it's sort of a dark yet realistic thriller art style, reminiscent of things sort of like BPRD. That's sort of what it reminded me of. So this one kid in particular, the journalist is trying to look for, who disappeared, who supposedly had powers. It's one of these things where there's like tapes that people say they've seen of his powers, but those tapes are missing now. And so this journalist is following breadcrumbs, but as he does it, it is very dangerous. I mean, to the point it's like he is attacked viciously in his hotel room, which just lets him know he's getting closer and closer. And by the end of this issue, you'll just have to see how close he does get. But who were these children? Where did they get their powers? And how powerful can they be? You'll just have to read issue #1 to see for yourself. And not all that gets answered in the first issue, too.
Of course.
So there is no B cover for it, but there is an incentive variant. This is the 1 in 10 boss variant for Indigo Children #1.
Okay, next up, I've got Star Wars High Republic The Blade. This is number 4, the final issue of this mini-series. And this has been a very popular mini-series for the High Republic, following Porter Engle, the Blade. He's known as the greatest lightsaber wielder in Jedi history. And this is an issue where you see kind of how he proves that. So in the last issue, they even did a second printing of the last issue. We're introduced to a new character, Jedi Hunter General Vice. And that character, I would say the last issue was a cameo, and this is a first full appearance because she's in this quite a bit. They fight, and she's a pretty formidable opponent in her own way. You can tell that she maybe even has some Jedi training of her own. But this is a really fun, mostly fighting issue with a pretty emotional finale. So just keep that in mind. It might be good, might be bad. You'll have to see. But the other thing I wanted to mention is, even though this is the end of the miniseries, it does reveal that there is Porter Engle will be back in a new series called The Broken Blade. So it seems like it's going to be kind of a series of mini-series starring this character. But where we're going to find him in the next one, let's just say the cover that they show is he's not looking too happy. So that is Star Wars High Republic: The Blade, number 4. We've got some variants for that one. We have the really nice Macone variant. We have the Peach Momoko variant. Oh, there she is again, Peach Momoko. And then, so get my books in order. We have the Manahini variant. And on top of all that, we have a 1 in 25 Lashley variant. We're selling to our customers for $25. And then also wanted to mention there is Star Wars High Republic number 7 that is coming out this week as well. So pretty close to the end of that series. And we have the variants for that. This is the, check my notes, this is the Villanelli variant. And then there's also the 1 in 25 Zurcher variant. We're selling to our customers for $40.
Okay, so I read Detective Comics number 1070. This is by Ram V and Stefano Raffaelli. I saw some places saying it like new creative team on this issue. I think maybe they helped with it because I see Cy Spurrier's name on it as well.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're officially doing the whole thing yet. Yeah, they're like
not taking it over.
handing off the torch. So this issue, you have more of Solomon Grundy, who has been infected by the Asmer demon. And it's pretty cool to see how he deals with that. He actually comes up with a way to get rid of the Asmer demon that I thought was interesting. But Grundy is going to run into that orphan who has the cool mask that they just introduced the other issue, who's calling herself Cheshire Cat. She doesn't seem to have any powers or anything, but she's got a mask, she's got a name. I mean, that's basically
she seemed like a young, kind of street smart kid with the mask.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that I won't reveal anything, but I've read something that I kind of know who that character is.
Okay. So they have their run in, but not in like necessarily a bad way. They're both trying to kind of escape different things. We also have it where Bruce Wayne has another impromptu conversation with Arzin, Prince Arzin, where Arzin relates more of his history and why he is in Gotham. That is, if he's being honest. And lastly, as you see on the cover here, you got Oracle playing the keyboards.
Yeah, that's
the computer keyboards, that is. And Oracle has a visit from Arclight of the new team, the Vigil, the four-member team.
It's going to be getting their own
And
miniseries.
That's right. So the Vigil, they kind of tell her a little bit about themselves and about what they're doing in Gotham and how maybe they could work together. But they're not real nice about it either. It's not like, hey, let's just team up. So those are some of the things going on in Detective Comics 1070. Here we have the Rice variant for that. Oh yeah, and Talia al Ghul's in it too.
Just this is a little side extra.
The variant reminded me of that. Her and Bruce have more talk.
Yeah, I'll have to tell you after this about
Cheshire Cat.
who Cheshire is, because I got to read something early and I know who that character is. Okay, next up, I've got Tim Drake Robin, issue number 7. Now, I can't remember if this is the final issue of this series. I know it's ending. It kind of felt a little bit like an ending, but it didn't have like the end.
It didn't say Finn with one.
No, and it well, with end with a question mark. No, it didn't have that either. And it even kind of teased something at the end. So I'm not sure if that's something that's going to be in this series or a future series. But a thing I wanted to mention about this one, I thought made it really interesting, is the format of this issue is broken up into courses of a meal. So you have the appetizer, which is like the first little part, and it kind of describes in a way of like what the appetizer is and what it does, and that kind of reflects how the issue, what happens to that part of the issue. And then we have the entree, and then one part we have the salad, and then we have the best part, which is the dessert. You have to read what happens at the dessert, but then there's something that comes after dessert. You have to read it to find out. But I thought it was a very interesting way to format an issue and kind of the parallels between those two. But it also explores, does Bernard know that Tim Drake is Robin? He's smart. Is he smart enough to figure that out, or has Tim hidden that well enough? You'll have to read it and find out. But that is Tim Drake Robin number 7. Also have, this is a very nice variant. This is the Nicola variant. It's Huckin' as ours.
Okay, so I read It's Jeff. This is a one-shot, and what it is so originally these were done online, but so this is the first time they're in print, but they also added more to the story. So just like how Jeff the Landshark cannot speak, this also does not have any words, okay? These are a series of 1 to 3 page funny stories done by Kelly Thompson and Gary Huro, where Gary Huro does this style art, which is, it just lends itself to humor. It makes you want to smile when you see the art. Where Jeff the Landshark is in all kinds of weird situations, and it's just fun to kind of watch it panel to panel and figure out what's going on. You know, so in one, the Avengers and X-Men are having a pool party when Jeff the Landshark shows up. You know, in another one, Jeff the Landshark decides to playfully steal Captain America's shield and hide it, and it's up to Cap to figure out where it is. And another one is what does Jeff the Landshark do on a day in the summer where it's really hot out and they're in the city? It's far away from water. How does the Landshark stay cool? So it's that and much, much more. This is a full comic size. It actually felt a little longer than a regular comic, but there are no words to it. So that's what's going on. And It's Jeff, the one shot and pretty much first, you know, sort of Jeff starring comic ever in print. Here we have the Ron Lim variant. And we have this Duale variant, which of course I believe is a Free Willy homage.
I think it's a Jaws homage.
Jaws homage. Jaws homage.
Instead of coming from under the water, it's coming from out of land.
There we go. I was thinking Free Willy was the one where he's jumping over
him. Yeah,
I think you're right.
I think if you flipped it, it would be very Jaws. Next up, I have Deadpool number 5. So I've reviewed Deadpool on and off for this new series, but this one I think is going to have a lot of people scrambling out to get it because, as you know or may not know, that Deadpool has been kind of infected with a Carnage a piece of Carnage, not necessarily like, Cletus Cassidy main Carnage, but that same symbiote. And it's really been messing with him as he's grown more arms. A bunch of different stuff has happened with him. But in this one, he, for lack of a better term, gives birth to a new Carnage dog. And that seems to be going to be an ongoing thing in this book, where Deadpool has a new Carnage dog that he has a couple of names for. One of them is a pretty deep cut Twilight reference that's very funny, but he does decide on a name at the end. But I think this is pretty big. Like, this dog looks like, you can see a character, you see the design, you see how it's treated in the issue. Like, this is going to be around for a while. And I think this new Carnage dog is Deadpool's pet for a while. So you may want to run out if you collect everything Deadpool or Carnage. I think this character is pretty soon to have their own Wikipedia entry, because I think they're around to stay. There is a variant for it, but we've had so many people pre-order the variant that we do not have any to show here.
Okay, so I read Something is Killing the Children, issue number 30, by the regular team of James Tynion Jr. and Werther de Ladera. In this issue, so actually I should say in last issue, Cutter, who has been after Erica for a while, has not just captured her or fought her, but she has set her up. She's killed the police that had Erica captive, making it look like Erica did it. So what does Erica have going for her at all now that she's on the run with with Gabby and her other companion? Is Erica was able to tell one police officer her side. Doesn't mean he believes her. In fact, in this issue, you get to see him wrestle with that. The other thing is Erica has stolen the totem of Cutter. And this, the totems are the things that have the demon in them and can speak, and we get to hear what it has to say about what Cutter's going to do because it was stolen. Lastly, Erica and her party, they're going to hide out this issue, and they're going to start planning for what can they do to stop Cutter. So that's some of what is going on in Something's Killing the Children, issue number 30. We have this Anidito variant, very bloody, with a chainsaw too. We have this one per store Deladera variant we're selling for $25, which is just a version of the regular cover. And then a 1 in 25 Kirkham Virgin variant for $25.
Next one I have is Daredevil. So this is Daredevil number 9. And if you're not reading the series, I would say it's a little, it'd be hard to jump on it at this point. But I think that does speak to how kind of rich they've built this up. Like, this story is going full blast, but I like now that it is pretty in depth to the what's going on with Daredevil, what's going on with Punisher, and how that affects the greater Marvel universe. As, it's not like, oh, Daredevil and all of the Avengers are against Punisher. The Avengers and all of that, they're not really happy about either side getting in this ninja fight that they're getting into. So we do see who is going to be trying to stop Daredevil and his team in this issue. So I thought there's another great entry into the Daredevil story. Sad to hear that this is probably ending. Zdarsky's run is probably ending this summer. But that is, it looks like it's going to be going out with a bang, so I'm very excited to see where all of this leads. We also have some variants for this. This is the Alex Ross Timeless variant with Elektra. Very nice. And we have this 1 in 25 Juniva variant. Kind of the Daredevil sense there. We're selling to our customers for $15.
Okay, I read Thor issue number 32. This is done by the team of Torin Gronbeck with art by Juan Gideon. And in this issue, I mean, the cover says a lot. This doesn't happen yet, okay? This is what things are headed towards. Because it starts off and Doom has kidnapped Hela. He needs information out of Hela. That's how powerful Doom is,
Mhm.
because he can capture people with like godlike abilities. But what does he want to know from her? You'll have to read it to find out. Meanwhile, Thor and Jane Foster need to bring back Corvus Glaive, who they previously defeated. So they have to figure out a way to bring him back to life because they need information from him on the Black Infinity Stone. Lastly, this issue has a lot to do with Thor kind of learning what he needs to learn and trying to find Doctor Doom so they can finally have a meeting and probably a battle. So that is what's going on in Thor issue number 32. And we do not have a variant for this one either.
And it's still you.
It's still me.
I tapped out. Somehow our numbers got thrown off.
You piled your Star
I did it.
Star
I
Wars
piled my
together.
Star Wars up.
Okay, so that's fine. I have two more to talk about. Next, I'm going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. It is Saturday Morning Adventures Dungeons and Dragons #1. This is a miniseries. So this is, of course, from a cartoon that started back in 1983. So we're talking 40 years later.
Like 40 years. It's like, really?
They're doing
insane.
a comic about this. Yeah, I watched this cartoon as a very young kid. I remember barely getting it because in 83, I guess I was like 4 years old.
Mhm.
I probably watched it more in like 85. Before I ever played Dungeons and Dragons, which I started playing when I was 11. Anyhow, this was good, and it brought back a lot of nostalgia, though. I will just go ahead and admit that. Seeing these characters again, it was like, wow, this is awesome. The art style, it was also neat. I was telling Andy, I'm like, this art in this is better than the cartoon because technological advances. I mean, that cartoon was made on a very small budget.
Yeah.
And now we have just all the computer programs to help with coloring, especially the gradients, all that. So this was written by David M. Booher with Sam Maggs, and the art is done by George Kembadias. So, of course, this is 6 kids. This is set back in the 1980s. At least that's when this began.
Mhm.
Is they went to an amusement park and they went on some ride that took them to Forgotten Realms. And while they're in Forgotten Realms, this Dungeon Master Force gives them each special magic items, and the whole plot is them trying to get home. Well, they have been here for a long time, okay? And in this issue, they finally start discussing, instead of us trying nonstop to get home, maybe we've made enough friends here, we've done enough stuff here that this is now our home. And they have a little bit of a disagreement about this. There's a lot more to it. There is a battle. There's also a nice splash page where you learn all their names, all their powers, all their weaknesses, what their classes are. So if you didn't see the cartoon, it's fine. That catches you up. But a portal appears, and they have to fight their way to it if they hope to get home. But it doesn't take them home. It takes them somewhere else that's famous to anyone who plays enough D&D or Forgotten Realms. So that's what's going on in Saturday Morning Adventures Dungeons & Dragons #1. If you remember the cartoon, I mean, just hop on board the nostalgia train. I was not disappointed.
It's very interesting because I think a lot of times we lump that show in with some of the later stuff like the He-Man and the Transformers and all that, but it's almost closer to like Hanna-Barbera, like Yogi Bear style. Yeah, it's like a precursor to those, what we would consider more modern cartoons.
Just for general information, Dungeons & Dragons was first published in 1974. So this was just 9 years later. It had a cartoon going. Here is the variant. This is the Hickey variant, which shows some of the adventures they were on together. And the last one I'm going to go over is, you know what? I found a variant for Thor.
There's a Bradshaw.
This is. So Thor has a Bradshaw variant to it that I misplaced in a pile. Okay, so the last one I'm going to go over is Invincible Iron Man #4. This is by Jerry Dugan with art by Juan Frigeri. And in this, like the cover kind of shows it, Tony Stark has finally figured out who has been messing with him, messing up his life, not in a light way either, who's been impersonating him, just ruining his life. In this issue, Tony confronts them. He tries to find out why. He gets an answer. They have a battle, but this is not the end. There is much more to go. This battle does not solve things at all. And in fact, by the end of it, Tony is going to have to go to one of the X-Men's villains / friend that for help, somebody he would never reach out to except that he really needs the help. So that's what's going on. Invincible Iron Man number 4. Here are the variants. This is the Leighton variant where he's doing all the different Iron Man armors in a row. Here is the Alex Ross Timeless variant, the Mandarin. Yep.
Showing off his bling.
I know. Yeah, I think I said he was big pimping when we showed some comics from the future. And here is the Art Adams 1 in 25 variant. We're selling for $15. Whew, a lot of comics we went over.
It's been a while since we had one this size.
Yeah, so that was 23 comics, but we're not done.
No.
We're going to tell you about other ones that are out this week we didn't get a chance to read, including
Planet Hulk Worldbreaker number 5.
Sabretooth and the Exiles number 5 is out as well.
We're getting a lot of number 5s because we also have Strange Academy Finals number 5.
Which, if I didn't read 12 things, that would have been the other one.
Yeah.
Like, I always read Strange Academy Finals. X-Men Unforgiven number 1 is out this week.
We have Batman Gotham Knights Gilded City number 6 of 6, final issue of that. And if you gathered all those codes, this is when you can redeem them all.
There you go. Blue Beetle Graduation Day number 5 is out this week.
We have Dark Knights of Steel number 10.
DC Ruby's 2nd issue is out this week.
We have Gotham City Year 1 number 6.
Punchline, the Gotham game, the final issue number 6 is out.
Wow. Sandman Universe Dead Boy Detectives number 4.
Stargirl, the Lost Children number 5.
Local Man number 2. I'm definitely gonna
That's
be grabbing
another one
that
I
one.
want to check out. Yeah, there was just so much to read this week. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 issue number 4 is out. That's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, I think that is it. So if you want to purchase these comics from us, you can go to our website. We have a link where you can purchase these right now, or you could sign up to pre-order any comics you want to subscribe to, or even individual issues. That is on infinityflux.net. Again, I apologize for breaking our digital audio converter. I'm going to have to buy one immediately. I can't believe we've had audio problems 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Completely different ones. We were just talking about how great our audio sounds with the new mics. Our goal for this year is to continue to improve our show.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to get that audio back. We're going to get some better lighting. In fact, we have extra shows we're going to start doing maybe even next week. So buckle in. Even with these problems, we forge on. We're going to make this the best that we can. So anyhow, we will be back this Friday with comics from the future. Until then, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. I think we're up to 2120 subscribers for a little niche channel like ours. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Thank you very, very much. And we will see you next week.